Welcome to a podcast about something's Patreon exclusive. What is you mean? We break down each episode of the final season of HBO's Game of Thrones.
I said, baby, I don't hate you, but I hate to see you go.
All right, season 8, episode 3, The Long Night, The Long Dark Night. That was full of terrors because honestly, I couldn't see anything.
I could hardly see a thing.
It was rough. Yeah, there was some good stuff going on. There was some rough decision making. We'll get into it, but first, I think we should take a moment to just remember the ones we lost. So I made a list. We got 7 people died, and maybe 1 wolf. We've got Dolores Ed. See you later. Bye. Liana. Not gonna miss you. Liana Mormont, you were good for what you were, but it's time for you to move on. Beric, Dondarrion, same thing with you. It was time for you to move on. Theon Greyjoy, it was time for you to move on about 3 seasons ago, and we finally got it. Thank you.
Fitting.
Jorah was probably the most impactful, just because he was with Dany when it happened. So we lost Jorah Mormont. We'll discuss these more when we actually go through the episode. I just wanted to give a moment for the dead. The Night King. I don't think we're gonna miss you, but you did die, so we'll give you that.
Rest in pieces.
And then Melisandre. Just
Thanos.
Thanos, I guess, would be the way to put it. And
dusted.
then maybe not Ghost. Let's start with Ghost.
No.
He, well, actually, let's not start with Ghost, because there were some things that happened before. So we come into the episode, they're getting ready for battle. Sam is wringing his hands. He doesn't know whether he wants to go to the crypts or go out to the battlefield. He ends up making the right choice, going to the battlefield. But the first words spoken in the background are, "Get to the crypts."
I wrote down the crypts and started like 12 times on my first line.
But I barely heard it in the background because we were watching on a different TV, so I'm trying to find like the right volume setting so it's not too loud, but it's loud enough. And like as I'm turning it up, I hear "Get to the crypts" in the background. I'm like, oh yeah,
it's time.
Safest place. Yeah. And then Lyanna Mormont says, gives some commands to her people in the background as Sam's walking through everything. Really cool tracking shot of Sam kind of walking through all the preparations. And then he gets to Dolores Ed, who gets the first like actual statement of the episode of, "Oh, for fuck's sake." And then he's also the first to die.
Yeah.
I knew it. As soon as he got the first words, I was like, oh, he's going to be the first one gone.
Yeah, he's dead
I
as
wrote
shit.
it down.
Especially after that opening score, man. Oh, that was just haunting.
They were really setting the scene there, which was awesome. And then we just, we go to the Dothraki and we don't know what's going on with them. What are we going to see out of them? Do they have any, dragon glass weapons, anything like that? But then, bam!
Melisandre.
She's back. Just so she can die. As soon as she showed up too, I was like, oh, she's not making it out of this day.
Well, I did not expect her to roll up out of the black. And no. I kept expecting like the army of the fiery hand or whatever. I kept expecting them to come up behind her after a couple minutes, but no.
Yeah, that would have been cool to give some use to the actual Lord of Light followers that exist.
Yeah.
I don't want to shit on the show too much, because there were some really bad decisions, it seemed like, in this battle. And we'll point them out, but there was a lot of cool stuff happening, too.
There was so much cool
stuff. Like, the Fiery Hand would have been cool, because she went there for a reason, and apparently maybe it was just to get better at magic for 6 months, I guess.
Restock on her potions?
Yeah. Because, that would have been cool for her to actually bring something back that would have been more helpful than lighting the Erex for them to just as quickly die out.
That was such a cool way to incorporate, her magic with the like old world style of Mongolian fighting from the Dothraki, and then the way they utilized.
Out like bitches.
Oh, dude, the way they utilized those.
Actually,
those
they didn't go out like
basically.
Bitches.
No, fuck no, man. They went out. Just that opening charge after that haunting score, and then just the scream slowly dying out.
The aerial view, because it was like with Dany and Jon up on like the hill, like that was so cool to see that in the aerial view with all of them lit, and then it kind of flashed to the one Dothraki's face who was just scared shitless, which these guys don't get scared of anything. So to see them scared means something bad is on the other end of that. We still don't see the army of the dead, really. We just see his face. And then it kind of goes back to Jon and Dany as all of the flames are just disintegrated, basically.
That was incredible, and incredible cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
Just the combination of, the music, the way they filmed that scene, like the flashing back and forth, like you mentioned, and then using the Dothraki who never get scared, showing fear, like how deeply the fear is running through all of them.
It's like a split-second shot of this guy's face, but it tells you everything you need to know about what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
They're let in by Jorah and Ghost, and I never saw Ghost come back. Some people say that they see him in the trailer for next week. I didn't notice that. I really think like they're just done with Ghost. Like they don't need him. They sent him. There's a reason they sent him in with the Dothraki instead of being by Jon's side or Arya's side or in the crypts. Like that was him going out, and it kind of sucks because if that is him going out, he deserves a better death than that. That was worse than Summer's death if that's the way he goes out.
I'd say there's no way he's dead. Like we were talking about it on Twitter the other day or yesterday about. I just don't think they would kill Ghost off, who has a huge following and is a beloved character, off screen like that. And
especially a lot of people were pissed in season 7 that he made no appearances.
Exactly, and
so it's like they had time to give him a good ending if they wanted to.
They should have. If they're that tired of him, which I think that I did catch a glimpse through a YouTube video. Actually, they slowed it down, and you see him standing in front when they're going to like burn the bodies. But logically, he wouldn't return from that. Like I just don't see Ghost returning from that. And at the same time, why was he with Jorah? Why? Like that makes zero sense in the greater scheme of things.
Yeah, it doesn't make his best place probably would have been in the crypts helping defend the people who can't fight.
That's kind of what I was thinking. That or next to Bran and the Godswood.
And that would have been good too, because then Bran could actually use him if he needed to.
Absolutely, he could warg and peace out.
And we'll talk about Bran's abilities here in a few minutes. But yeah, so they go in, and then we get some stragglers coming back, some of the Dothraki, and you see Jorah come back. And I was really expecting their eyes to turn blue, like them to kind of get back in the camp a little bit, and then their eyes to turn blue.
Yeah.
And then them turn, like, that would have been bad at, like, Jorah went out in a good way for Jorah anyways. But I just think that would have been badass if they brought them back. Everybody let them in because they're like, oh shit, these guys are retreating, let them in. And then boom, their eyes are blue, and now they're inside the camp and can do some scouting or something like that.
Just start doing crazy damage if they got behind the Unsullied lines. And I mean, it makes sense, like season 1 where they had those 2 whites that came into Castle Black and then opened their eyes later on once they were close to the Lord Commander. Like there's precedent for it, and that would have been super cool to see.
Yeah, and it would have been. I don't think you could do it with Jorah though, because Jorah needed to die in the way he died. But you could have done it with Grey Worm or any other main character that is going to die anyways. I know you don't think Grey Worm's going to die, but just Jorah needed to die next to Dany. I get that. So why send him in and have him come right back? Like send somebody else in and have them come back in that way. Might be, or if you would have built out the characters of any of the Dothraki in the past 2 seasons, that might have helped too.
Just a little bit.
So Dany makes her impulsive decision. She doesn't like seeing the Dothraki die, even though they're already fucking dead. Like, you getting on your dragon at this point isn't going to help. They already ran into that wall. They're done. So you going out there is just going to screw up your plan. And my notes was, Dany makes another impulsive decision. I'm sure it's going to work out. Yeah. And that is a big sarcastic, I'm sure it's going to work out.
Yeah, I just wrote, Dany takes off. Yeah. Because that's kind of how I felt as soon as I saw it.
So she and Jon have a little argument about it, and Jon's like, no, we need to stay here. Like, we got to wait for Bran. Like, what's going on down there that needs to go on down there. We need to be here. But then Jon takes off after. Like, Jon, just fucking stay there. You still have a dragon. You can still protect Bran. Why do you have to go with her?
Because Jon Snow's a dummy when it comes to female reproductive organs.
I guess.
He's a
except when he's actually interacting with those reproductive organs. He knows what he's doing down there.
Yeah, he's all focused. He's got a game plan.
Yeah. So in the first 2 minutes, the Army of the Dead gains thousands of Dothraki and Unsullied. Of course, he doesn't raise them till later, but like your first two waves are your best fighters, and they're just gone like that. And now,
oh man, when the dead washed over the Unsullied like that,
yeah,
that was incredible cinematography as well. And
I couldn't really see anything, but yeah, I'm sure it was.
I got the hint. It was just like gray blob on black blob losing, and so that was cool. But one thing I kept asking myself the whole time, and it was really bugging me, was why were they not firing artillery or arrows like the entire time?
They did show them send like
one wave
trebuchets, catapults of flaming rocks, basically. And then that's the thing, and we get to that later where the Unsullied eventually retreat, which again, the Unsullied don't fucking retreat. So the fact that they're retreating is bad news. So they retreat, they set the moat on fire, Melisandre helps out again there, and
very cool scene.
They just fucking stand there.
Yeah,
like the army of the dead stops because obviously they're afraid of the fire, but nobody's like, why aren't you shooting arrows at them now?
I was screaming
Where
at my
are your
TV,
catapults?
Like, what are you doing? Like, you could take out
guess
tons.
The answer to this is probably they're lost in the snow cyclone that the White Walkers created, which was awesome too. But like, that's great chance for Dany and Jon to just come torch some motherfuckers while they're just standing there waiting. But I think they were. I'd have to watch it again. We only got to watch this episode once because we're recording a little earlier. But I think they were lost in the snow cyclone at that point, so they probably couldn't get there or even see what. Yeah, because she couldn't she was supposed to light the moat, and she couldn't.
Melisandre had to come in and looked like she was about to lose her shit. But I don't understand why they didn't do like a dual trench technique or something.
More than one trench.
Block them in.
And why is the trench so close to the castle? And why didn't they dig a hole?
Yeah.
I guess the ground's frozen. They might not be able to dig a hole. Would be the best explanation for that.
It's like 3 feet wide.
Yeah. So that's my wife going into it. She's like, well, why don't they just set a big firewall like out in the middle so they can't get past? And I'm like, well, because there's hundreds of thousands of the dead. You just use your first line to basically trample out the fire. You sacrifice that they're dead anyways. The Night King doesn't give a shit about them. You just use them to trample out the fire, and that's exactly what they end up doing.
Yeah, and it felt like it took them a while to figure it out, or the Night King to figure it out.
Well, yeah, I don't think the Whites can actually think for themselves. They just know fire bad. So, like, I think they had to kind of be given a directive to do that.
See, I felt that was weird, like at Hardhome when they just go tumbling off the cliff face. I mean, maybe it's proximity of the Night King dictating their actions like that, but I felt like they showed no regard for their ability to get up and fight after diving off the cliff.
So my argument for that is they're not dead by falling off the cliff. Their parts and pieces still work if they're together. So the thing about burning is it destroys completely. You can't piece back together ash, but you can piece back together different sets of bones and things like that. So you can fall off a cliff theoretically and put your arm back on, or just keep going without an arm. So I think they knew, like, or again, it was a directive, like, don't worry about that cliff, you'll be fine. And they just went off, and this time the Night King was off doing other things, so he couldn't get the directive of, like, just go into the fire. Don't worry about it.
That is an interesting point, and I think I'm inclined to agree with you there.
So then we get a scene with Arya and Sansa. Arya's telling Sansa, get down to the crypt, it's time. And Sansa, for whatever reason, is arguing with her, like, what the fuck are you going to do on the wall with no weapons and no training whatsoever, Sansa? Like, you belong down below.
Yeah, just get the fuck out of here. You're pissing me off.
You are the Lady of the North. You don't need to be in the fight. But then she gives her a dagger, and we assume this dragon glass dagger is going to make an appearance again soon and do some damage.
We assume.
We get the ice wind.
That was another cool effect that I really liked. It made it so much harder to see, but
yeah. And then they give us these shots of Pod and Brienne and Jaime and Dularzed and Jorah and everybody just kind of fighting back to back, and they just keep flashing between these main characters, giving us, and Sam giving us, who's gonna die, it could be this guy, it could be this guy, it could be this guy. I didn't really think anyone other than probably Dularzed was going to die in this moment, because like that was too early for a lot of our favorites to die.
Be too easy at that point.
Right, and then Dullard Head does die in the scene, and I usually don't watch the little bit with the directors afterwards, but I did this time, and like they said, they did that kind of thing on purpose, just like this flashing, just to show. It's more like how the characters feel in the battle. It makes the viewer feel how the characters feel in the battle. Like, they can't get a grasp on anything. Their minds are going from spot to spot. They're trying to figure out what's going on. So it's only right to make us feel the same way. And I think that's kind of cool. And I got that while I was watching it. I was like, this is just madness.
This is war. Like, This is a fight to the death. And that's kind of... It reminded me of the Saving Private Ryan scenes when they first stormed the beach at Normandy. And it's just that chaotic. You can't really focus on much of anything.
The word I was looking for.
It was really well done, and I like to see basically you can start to see the hopelessness starting to set in on each one of their faces as they're just cutting down 2 and 4 more pop back up. It's incredible.
And we get quite a few scenes. I want to say there were 3 or 4 scenes where they kind of did that, and it was always with Jamie, Bran, Pod, and Sam. And every time Sam looked like he had like 5 whites on him and there was no way he'd be out of it. And then he got saved. And I made a note. I said, it seems like the more near-death experiences we get out of someone, the less likely they are going to be to actually die. And Sam had by far the most near-deaths with somebody just saving him at the last minute.
Seriously.
So Sam's got a long life ahead of him. Good job, Sam.
He's got to write the story. Like, my wife was like, Sam's going to die. And I'm like, no, this is Sam's story. Yeah. He's not dying.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. And it's the opposite of, let's give this guy a big speech. Let's give Lyanna Mormont her last hero moment before she dies. It's the exact opposite of that. Let's make everybody think he's going to die a million times because he's never going to die.
Yeah, he's not going.
So from now on, it will cheapen every near-death experience for Sam for me. I don't think he'll have more. I doubt he'll go into battle against Cersei or Dany if it comes to that.
There's no way. I think Sam has like a weird mental block about fighting the living. Like, the dead he's cool with, but the living, I think he's more of a wallflower.
I think he knows that the dead is bigger than his fear, basically.
Because I mean,
it doesn't matter that he's a cow. It doesn't matter that he has fear of fighting when it's the army of the dead, because we need every person we can get. But like when you're fighting the Golden Company, it's like, all right, I'm not trained to fight these guys.
No, these dudes are gonna super kill me, and I have the option of not fighting them, so I'm taking that option.
Right. So then, that's after that we get the actual retreat from the Unsullied and everything. We already talked about that. Melisandre goes out and lights the trench, and they're giving her a lot to do since she's been gone for a while, which is good. Mm-hmm. She needed a lot to do in this. She is the champion of the Lord of Light, so she needs to be there. And we get back to the crypts, and then, Varys is just doing absolutely nothing. Like, I
loved that line, though. That was probably one of my favorite lines.
What did he say? Because I made a note that Varys gets a lot to do, and I don't know if it was sarcastic or not.
It is. That was sarcastic, because they focus on him, and he goes, "At least we're already in a crypt."
Oh, yeah. Okay,
I love that. I thought that was hilarious. I
got it, yeah. Because I wrote, at least we're already in the crypts, but I thought that was my thought, not his. Okay, so then we're in the crypt. We've got a great Sansa Tyrion exchange about how they feel they should have ended up together, and there's probably still hope for that. Because I think both of them are going to make it out alive of the story.
At least this part of the story.
Yeah, and then, that sets up a potential Tyrion turn on Dany even further.
Yeah.
Which, I'm looking for. One note I had on this is while they're discussing it, Sansa says, we would still be, if not for the Dragon Queen, like we'd still be on the same side kind of thing. And Missandei pipes in with, if not for the Dragon Queen, you'd all already be dead. Mm-hmm. That's not true. Because if not for her, the White Walkers would still be on the other side of the wall. If Dany didn't come over here, the Night King would not have a dragon. They wouldn't have made it past the wall. The wall's magic. They can't get past it. They'd just be fucking stuck there.
Forever.
Yeah. That is why the wall exists. But no, because your Dragon Queen brought her dragon north. Like, just let those fucking people die that are stuck on the rock. Yeah, it's a lot of people we love, but is it worth it? Now that King's got a dragon.
It isn't worth it very much now. That's for damn sure.
I think we saw how that played out. So, Miss Sandy, you're wrong. The Dragon Queen is not the savior of everyone. So here's the thing about Dany, is she has a Messiah complex and a savior complex because in Essos, that's what she was. There were people to free and people to save.
Misa.
There's not actually anyone to save in Westeros. Everybody is doing their own thing and is free to do their own thing. Mm-hmm. There are no slaves to release. I mean, you have to save them from the army of the dead, I guess, in a sense, but
they don't even know it exists.
They didn't even know it exists, right? And most of them are completely ignorant and fine to being ignorant to the army of the dead, other than Jon. He wants to tell everyone he knows. But when she came to Westeros, this was her biggest problem, is she's a liberator. There's no one to liberate in Westeros. There's people being oppressed, but it's by their own lords. Like, her killing the lords is just going to allow another lord to rise and oppress somebody different, a different lower house. And it's not even oppression. It's just, you're not as good as this person. It's a caste system more than anything.
They have to swear fealty and all that stuff. That's a great way to say it. It's a caste system. It's old feudal England.
Right. And so by her coming there, like, nobody's going to be on her side. Like, nobody wants to be conquered at this point. They'd rather live their life in their feudal system than to be conquered. So what she's selling, the Westerosi are not going to buy. Sorry,
not from her. Not from her. They all fucking hate the Night King and the Targaryens and dragons. Like, you've seen how the Northerners reacted. It's just going to get worse and worse as the longer she stays. And that's how most stays.
Because she was told stories of, well, there's still people who drink toast in your favor. Like, yeah, but those are like little houses who lost their power because the Targaryens were overtaken. There's a lot more people who are like cool with the status quo of how things are going now because there's a relative peace until the War of the Five Kings began.
Yeah, I mean, it was a prosperous time.
Yeah, there's some people who are still toasting to the return of the Targaryens, but they are few and far between, and like, you're not going to come over and have a huge amount of support. And in the books, you know, young Griff is finding that, like, he had to bring the Golden Company because nobody's just going to flock to his banners.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And she thinks just by showing up and saying, I'm the queen, everybody's going to go, oh shit, yeah, she's right, let's go.
Yeah.
Guys, we figured it out, we got her.
Knees.
Yeah, but nobody wants to do that. So she's having a hard time with her stump speech of, I'm here to free you from what's going on, because everybody is mostly like, well, I'm cool with what's going on. Like, yeah, Cersei burned a bunch of people, but she didn't burn me.
Yeah,
I still have my land.
Yeah, I got beer to drink and food.
You're threatening to burn my land with your dragons if I don't follow you. Cersei never did that. She just burned these people I don't know and don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
So
you burned my cousin twice removed, and fuck you.
Yeah, don't care about that. So yeah, we get the crypt, and then we finally get to Theon and Bran. We get the line from the initial trailer of Bran telling Theon that he's home, which a great scene by both Isaac Hempstead Wright and Alfie Allen.
Yeah. Like,
that was Bran is finding his humanity a little bit, which is good, and I think Theon helped him with that because he saw how broken Theon became.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, Bran says he's got shit to do.
Yeah.
And my note was, Bran finally does something, but I don't think he did.
We don't really know what he did exactly.
Yeah. He probably could have done something better than flying into the Ravens. I guess. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just kept expecting the wolf pack to come flying in at some point.
Something. Like, yeah. He goes into the Ravens, and I guess he's just, like, scouting. He's trying to figure out where the Night King is, what he's doing, so he can be ready and tell the Ironborn to be ready. But then that's it. Then he just stays warged for most of the rest of the episode.
Until the Night King.
They just... Either they don't get Bran, or they're setting up something different for Bran. Or they just are... Latter. I hope it's the latter, and we'll talk about that when we get to, like, what do we expect next. But the alternative is they just don't get him, and they're just ready to be done with magic. And this is Bran's last stand. Their other option is, okay, Bran goes back beyond the wall and join and is just the Three-Eyed Raven from now on after this, and he's just done. And if that's the case, like, that's really, really shitty and doesn't do his character any service, because in the books, he is the most important character. He is the one that's going to change things.
Yeah, he's going to end the long night. He's
the most powerful green seer that's ever been, and that has to come into play, and it just doesn't in the show.
It doesn't in a way that expresses
Not yet, at least.
effectiveness.
That he is more powerful.
Yeah.
It in no way have we seen just amazing power from Bran.
No, in no way, shape, or form. Other than like he's had his moments where he gives a nice one-liner that's like, ooh, damn, like his powers are there for sure. That reminds us, but never. He's like a Professor X, man, from the X-Men. That's what he reminds me of, like this just next level cat.
Well, and if you asked show watchers only, they wouldn't get that. They have no idea that Bran is the most powerful person, and he is the only one in the world ever that's been able to do the things that he did. When he warged into Hodor, that nobody had ever seen that before.
Mm-mm.
Even people who, like, so Varamir Sixskins has studied the art of skin changing, and he thought it was impossible to, he attempts it and gets thrown out and into a wolf, but like nobody thought that was possible, and it wasn't possible until Bran did it. These are things that the show never took the time to explore with Bran's powers, and now his character's suffering for it because he's just the weird dude in the chair next to the tree.
I couldn't have said it better myself, my friend.
And that's what show watchers get out of him is like, okay, we're done with Bran. Good, let's move
Bran's
on.
creepy.
But like, yeah, no, Bran is important.
Yeah,
he should be.
He's super fucking important.
He's not just this thing that the Night King has to kill. He is, in the books, he will be an active force against the Night King. Or the Army of the Dead. Yeah, there won't be a Night King, but against the others in the Army of the Dead.
And in kind of a quasi leader in a sense, like he's the wise one. He's the wise counsel. I haven't really seen
he'll be the one that helps bring the Children of the Forest and men back together through Jon and through his relationship he's building with Children of the Forest now. So it's just it sucks that this is what they turn Bran into. He's a magic kid. Don't worry, he'll be gone soon.
Yeah, no shit.
The Army of the Dead breaches the walls next.
Shit gets intense, man. Ooh.
Yeah.
At the same time.
But at the same time, it's Arya time.
Yeah.
When they breach the walls. And Arya just goes fucking ballistic.
Yeah, I just wrote Arya doing work with like 10 exclamation points.
Yeah.
Arya time. But I mean, I love, like, to go back just a little bit, when Bran came to Jaime's aid and basically saved his ass. Like, the way she fought through that crowd of White Walkers.
Just to get to him.
Yep, and was like, hey, boo, I'm getting you out of here, you one-handed fuck. And, yeah, there we go. And then Arya starts doing some serious work. Oh, my God.
Yeah, and while she's doing her work, we have Beric and the Hound kind of watching on. And this is when I had a great thought that also should have come to fruition, but it didn't, is Beric's going to fall in battle at some point, and the Hound's going to have to pick up his flaming sword to either save Arya or help Arya, and because the Hound has to face his fear of fire, basically.
Mm-hmm. And
that would have been a great way to do it, is the need to save Arya is more important to him than his fear of fire. So he grabs Beric's flaming sword and just starts doing work to get Arya out of whatever situation. And that didn't happen.
No.
And we'll talk about Beric's death in a few minutes, but we have a better death first.
Yes.
Lyanna fucking Mormont is done.
She's dead, so.
Again, like, she was a good character, and they built her the way she needed to. It just weared a little thin towards in the beginning of the season. Like, I was just done with her.
Well, she was a couple scene character that's been written through several episodes.
Well, so they said in the after the episode thing with the director, or with D&D, they said, like, she was a one scene character.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
then they had this great reaction, so they brought her back for more and more, but they didn't actually build her character any. They just kept doing the same one scene over and over again. So it's like, all right, let's fucking move on.
Exactly. I wanted to see a little something different. And I mean, I even thought that maybe that interaction she had with Jorah before the battle, like, we get a little something from her, but no, she's just a cold little bitch. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't take no shit, and she wants you to know it. But her death was pretty brutal.
Oh, yeah. The dragon just fucking squeezed her, and then for whatever reason brought her really, really close to his face so she could stab him in the eye. So good job, Giant.
Yeah. Does my breast stink? And then boom. Got him right in the eye. Of course, she still has that arm free and has still managed to hold on to this knife. And, you know, a 9-year-old girl getting crushed to death. No way.
I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Like, it's cool. She got one last hero moment, which was cool. I just think if they would have given her more to do other than stand up and talk about what a badass she is, it would have been a little more deserved. But like, she got her hero moment that she needed to kill the giant. Which again, there should have been like 3 or 4 giants, but I guess Danny's dragon took them out.
Apparently, I did see one get lit on fire when she first goes through, but that doesn't explain the other like 20 giants he should have at least. But
and we got our first dragon battle.
You mean our darkness fight?
Yeah. Well, first, Rhaegal and Drogon run into each other at one point, just bam, head to head, which was kind of weird, but also kind of interesting because that would totally happen in this scenario. But yeah, they actually go up against Viserion. There's a lot of scratching and clawing, but then they do this shot of Drogon and Rhaegal just up above the clouds, just like hanging.
That was cool.
That's the dopest fucking thing. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, somebody's got to make a wallpaper out of this so I can put it on my phone. Like, that's fucking awesome.
That looked amazing.
My wallpaper on my phone right now is from Into the Spider-Verse, Miles' eyes when he's like looking over the city in his new costume. So like, this is probably the only thing that could replace that at this point.
That was a great shot. I loved when they start diving back down. It's like, and back down.
Yeah. That was really cool. They did a really good job with the CGI on the dragons in this episode, which in the past they haven't always done a great job, but they did here.
Yeah, they put in the time and the effort for sure, and the money.
So then we get sneaky Arya in the library using some of her, I guess this would have been Sirio's training of how to sneak around, because he was always quiet as a cat, you know.
She used to chase cats in King's Landing. And she'd have to sneak up on him, so that's where she got her silent walks.
Yep. So that scene was really cool to just kind of follow her through the thing, like just through the library as she jumps from spot to spot, avoiding them, and then just her coming around the corner and stabbing that one white before anyone can do anything.
Yeah, I thought it was an actual person at first, but see, when I felt like this was the transition from suspense movie to horror movie. Like, this is when she's sneaking through the library, and there's all these...
And they could have built that up a little bit more.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
They could have built that horror element up a little bit more. It was... I felt kind of the same way in Aquaman. Have you seen Aquaman?
Yeah.
When they get in the trench with those monsters, like they could have done like 20 minutes of just straight horror, them trying to get out of there.
Yeah,
and they just didn't do it. Like they just had one battle, and
peaced out.
Nicole Kidman comes up, and then they're out of there. So this is another case where like the same thing, like you're setting up this alien type chase, and it just doesn't pay off. She just kind of sneaks her way out, and there's one person stabbed.
Yeah.
Like, Arya did a great job in this scene. It's just, there should have been
she did a great
job, little
more
suspense, and I guess in an 85-minute episode with this much going on, maybe there's not time for that.
I think if they would have the score, I felt like was, they were more focused on the sounds of the room, whereas if I think they kept that score up, like, God, the opening was just amazing. And if they would have kept it and kind of changed the tone of it.
Yeah, a little chilling score behind her. Like, yeah, that would make sense.
That would make it way more enjoyable, in my opinion.
So then the Beric and the Hound come to her rescue, and this is where I thought Beric would fall and the Hound would kind of pick up his sword and finish the job for him. That didn't happen. He did fall, saving Arya. Apparently that was his purpose in life this whole time. He got brought back 7 times just to save Arya, which at first I was like, so when he first died, my thought that I wrote down was Beric goes out heroically but insignificantly, meaning like, yeah, he saved Arya, but is that really as significant as bringing him back 7 times? And then so by the end of the episode, it makes sense why that's significant.
Most definitely. And I will say the imagery they made me feel, at least when I was watching it reminded me of Hodor holding the door, and when he's standing in the doorway and just getting stabbed like 30 times. Well, like, good God.
Because and Hodor's one purpose his entire life, from when he had his seizure at, let's say, 12 years old, his whole purpose his entire life was to hold that door, and he fulfilled that purpose as he went out. So it's kind of the same thing with Beric. Ever since Ned Stark sent Beric and others off after the mountain, his one purpose was to save Arya. So everything he did, forming the Brotherhood without banners, finding Thoros of Myr, everything like that, coming back to life 7 times, brought him to saving Arya.
Which is
so
cool.
it is kind of mirroring Hodor, except Hodor was a little simpler. He had a little easier path to get there.
Less dialogue too.
Yeah, Hodor. In the middle of all that, we get another scene in the crypt, where and it's just kind of a quick scene. They're down there, and they hear banging on the door. Let us in. Let us in. Let us in. Do you think Sansa made the right choice?
Yes.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
by the time they would have got the door open, that place would have been flooded with whites.
It's like 1 or 2 soldiers out there that you're saving and letting in hundreds of whites to all these people who can't defend themselves. Yeah.
But I mean, it got quiet real quick. Like they just had they had no head start, 0 time. It wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. So then we get into the Godswood. We got Theon and the 6 Ironborn are there. They're starting to fight off whites. They kept doing this thing. And this was the first time. There were a couple earlier times with Jaime and Pod and Brienne where, like, there would be a swarm of whites coming in. It'd be like 10 almost, at least, going in on one person. And then all of a sudden, and then they'd cut away, and then they'd cut back, and it's just like, oh, all those whites are dead now. It's cool. Yeah. So, like, with the Ironborn here, there were, like, probably 100 whites coming in on them because there's more Ironborn. And they all got their arrows ready, and they're firing and whatever. And Bran's still warped into the Ravens, I'm assuming. And, there's like hundreds of whites coming in, and then they flash back to him, and there's only like 3 attacking. Yeah,
there's
until the Night King raises his army. Yeah, so they did that a couple times with the near deaths with like Sam and Jaime and Jorah. They all got these like, we're getting closed in on. Oh, let's flash back to him now. That was easy. Don't worry about it.
Whoa.
Then the Night King blasts the wall down of Winterfell. Like, really, probably should have led with that. Night King.
Yeah, no shit.
Just fly in and blast the wall. What's going to happen? And then we get a Rhaegal versus Viserion battle. Viserion just demolishes Rhaegal and takes him down. A lot of people thought he was dead, but he shows up in the trailer too. So Rhaegal's still out there.
He looks pretty hurt, that's for sure. But
Viserion was pretty injured too, and we saw that later when he was kind of going one-on-one with Jon.
His jaw ripped off. Poor guy.
And so, but that was another that was a little more intense battle. You could see a little bit more going on between the two of them. Again, like, Bran is still gone. This is a great chance for him to try and take control of a dragon and bring them down, but instead the dragons just bring each other. Like, you have to get the Night King and Jon on the ground. I think there's better ways to do that than, like, why can't Viserion beat Rhaegal, bring Rhaegal to the ground, and then Bran needs to intervene? Like, this is what Bran is there for. Like, he's spending his time searching the past for ways to defeat the Night King. Like, that's it. Bring his dragon down.
Boom.
Show that he has power.
Take that shit back.
Then we get a Dracarys from Daenerys.
Yes, and I thought it
doesn't
was
work.
Well, I knew it wasn't going to work.
No,
because
there was no way that it was going to be that easy.
Well, they always play that same little music clip right when she does it. It's like, no. It almost sounds like engines firing off or something to me. But they didn't play that, so it's like, oh yeah, he's not gonna die. And then he hits her with the cheesiest smile ever, like, yeah, how you let me know?
And he grabs his spear, and Dany's fucking out of there. She's not there to get hit with ice spears. She doesn't give a shit about the war anymore.
She doesn't want to lose her baby.
Like, I was fully expecting her to just be gone the rest of the time. Like, she's like, fuck this isn't my fight. She does come back, but only for Jorah. I didn't. To me, it would have been in her character to just be like, nope, I'm not losing my dragon. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I gotta protect my child, or I think she's pregnant, and that's what made me nervous. Is I thought she was actually hit during that encounter because she kind of groans, or sounds like grunts is probably the better way to say it. And so I'm very curious how that
poor acting.
Yeah.
Just playing tennis. So then we get Jon a very large gap, but face to face with the Night King, ready to battle. But the Night King's ready for him.
Dude, I was pissed this whole series of events.
Jon needs to work on his 40 time a little bit. Spend a little time on some leg days, Jon.
No kidding.
You're very, very slow.
And the way they shot that, I felt like the distance between them was a lot smaller than when
it
they
definitely
did the wide shot.
Yeah.
And it's like, God, dude, what are you, 100 yards away? Jesus.
I think it's more probably that distance was shorter, like the way we perceived it. I think the dead probably rose faster than we saw, because it did a couple cuts. It did those dead rising. It flashed to, in the yard where Lyanna was rising again. Like, fuck it, Lyanna, just stay dead. We're done with you. and some of the Dothraki, and then it flashed to the Dothraki and the Unsullied, and then the Crypts. So I think all of that was happening kind of within 10 real-time seconds, maybe, but it took 40 show seconds because I had to flash between all of them. But they're all going on at the same time, technically.
That makes perfect sense.
But John, really, leg day, man.
Seriously.
Do some plyometrics, something. You got to be faster.
Yeah,
Send Gendry after him. We know how fast Gendry is. He ran back to the wall, man.
In like one night.
Yeah, not
what a
even.
Beast.
Yeah. So then we get the Crypts are actually the safest place.
The Crypts
break out of their tombs.
Yep.
And kill maybe like 4 people.
I thought it was more than 4 people.
It wasn't a lot of people. It was nobody important.
No, I thought Gilly got for a second.
My wife did too. We had to rewind. We started a little late, so we were watching it on demand, so we could rewind. She thought it was Gilly, but it was just like some other lady that almost looked like Gilly that was just sitting off to the side.
Yeah, they were like, psych. How do you like that?
Yeah. To me, it was a little anticlimactic in the Crypts. Like, you got some good scenes from Sansa and Tyrion.
Great scenes. Love those.
But neither of them, and maybe I just missed it, but neither of them killed any whites with their dragonglass daggers.
Nope. That we saw.
They just backed into a corner with everyone, and then, the resolution played itself out, and all the White Walkers fell. Or the whites fell. So, like, honestly, the Crypts were the safest place. Lowest death count by far in the Crypts.
Definitely.
So, you lose 6 out of 100, that's a lot better than the thousands of Dothraki and Unsullied that you lost in 2 minutes of battle.
I'd be curious to see the actual death count, because that was incredible, dude. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. And then, do you have anything else for the Crypts? Because, they go back to the Crypts one last time as everything falls, but I just kind of want to wrap that up as a story thread.
I like the scene between Tyrion and Sansa.
Yeah. When they're pulling out their daggers.
Yeah. Like, I feel like something else is going to come from that. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
I don't know if they're going to end up together or if it's just still setting up like Tyrion is starting to believe in Jon and Sansa more than he believes in Dany.
I think he believes in them all as a collective, but I think that leaves Tyrion to get with Sansa. Like, I think with Theon, we haven't talked about that yet, but my theory from last time that Sansa and Theon would be together, that was dismissed. So
yes,
this is kind of my best bet now.
Yeah, and I could still see that. The only problem I have with it is I feel like Sansa has to return to the north, and if she's married to Tyrion and he's the Lord Casterly Rock, like, why would you choose the north over Casterly Rock? Like, Casterly Rock is beautiful.
If Jaime lives, that'd be his seat.
Technically. I don't think he's going to live, though.
I don't know. I thought they were going to kill him this episode. I was pretty convinced he was going to go down somehow in this episode, and that was going to be the killer gut shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nobody... I guess they saved that for Jorah. So, Dany returns, to help Jorah. She lands her dragon and just starts getting the shit stabbed out of Drogon.
Oh, man, I felt so bad for the poor dragon.
I felt bad for Dragon. I didn't feel bad for Dany.
Why would they not take off?
Just fucking fly. Yeah, what are you doing?
That's what I was thinking. Like, why is he not taking off?
And then he does, and he knocks Dany off, and she's just scared shitless. Like, she's nothing without her dragons, and you see it there. Like, she knows she can't do anything at this point.
Well, I think it was a callback to when I forget what season, but she gets stuck in that field when the Dothraki horde are coming up on her. I think it's another callback to something like that. Yeah, you can take everything away, but she'll still rise up because it's Daenerys.
But she didn't, and this is another one of those scenes where she's getting closed in on by like 20 whites, and they cut away, and then they cut back, and Jorah's there to save the day, and there's only like one around her, and she has no fighting. Like, she can't fight, so how did all those other 20 go away? I didn't get that, but it doesn't matter. Jorah comes in to save the day. Yep. Jorah comes back. He saves her one last time. Goes out fighting for his queen, which, great job, Jorah. Emilia Clarke, really bad crier, but the scene with like Drogon wrapping his wings around both of them,
that was heartbreaking.
Was really fucking cool.
Yeah, that was touching, man. And I felt that emotion there. Like, that was one of the few times she gave a performance where I actually felt it. She is an ugly crier, I'll give you that, but damn it, you could feel she was genuinely distraught. Like, she doesn't really cry over people,
No.
And then I don't think she really cried over Khal Drogo. I can't
she
remember.
walked into the fire. I don't think she really did.
Yeah, and I mean, she just bawling her eyes out for Jorah, and he did exactly. They ended him perfectly. I think it had to be him fighting for Daenerys, and he did just that.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was the only way he could have gone. So then we're back in the Godswood. Theon makes his last stand. Bran gets the "You're a good man, Theon," which is he?
You.
Is he a good man?
He hasn't really had as much of an arc as I would like to totally redeem himself.
No, I think the book will do a much better job of redeeming him.
Yeah, I think in the book he's a good man, but now he's still kind of a pissant.
I don't think enough was made out of in the show of how awful the things he did were.
Oh yeah,
like how awful it was to turn on Robb Stark, and how awful it was to burn those kids and force Bran and Rickon out of their home. And
he's a piece of shit, man. Like, he is not a good dude at all.
Yeah. So I don't think they built that up enough. So his redemptive arc may have paid off a little bit in the show, just because his fall from grace wasn't as bad as it seemed.
Well, his fall from grace didn't last nearly as long as his time at the bottom
torture,
of the hole.
Right. So then we get the White Walkers, march in through the broken wall, and all of them and the Night King approach the Godswood. And this is where, they've made a big deal about Valyrian steel weapons being able to kill White Walkers. Not whites, but White Walkers, which are the generals, basically. And they're the ones that are created from Craster's babies by the Night King touching them. So they make this big deal about Valyrian weapons being able to kill them. Which Dragonglass doesn't work on them, fire doesn't work on them. They have to have Valyrian steel. Why didn't we get a battle between our 6 main characters who have Valyrian steel weapons? Jorah, Jaime, Brienne, Jon. Arya couldn't have been in the battle because of what she was doing, and somebody else has one, I think.
Who else would?
I thought there was one more person.
I don't think so.
Okay, so those 4 then. Why isn't there a battle between those 4 and the 7 generals where they're trying to take them down, and that is kind of the distraction for the Night King to go after Bran, and also the distraction for Arya to get in where she needs to get in.
Mm-hmm.
That should have been happening. Instead, we have Jaime and Brienne being overwhelmed yet again for the 15th time. We get that. We see that. Jorah is dying, but somebody else could have picked up, the Hound could have picked up his Valyrian steel sword and helped.
Oh yeah, he could have done work with
helped back up for Arya. Jon is just hiding from a dragon, basically. I mean, he's doing his best to get to Bran, but the thing he's doing is not doing anything. Right. So, I just think it would have been cooler to see that. And why did we make such a big deal about people having Valyrian steel weapons if they didn't actually end up mattering at all, other than one particular one?
It's possible it might come into play later on because, reasons. I don't know. I don't know the showrunners.
I don't see a whole army of the dead coming back, though, and White Walker generals and all that. There are paths where something could happen where
I could see
and we'll talk about that, but I don't see a full-on army where you need all these Valyrian steel weapons just specifically for them. This is your chance to show why Valyrian steel weapons are better than regular weapons.
Why they're a mythical weapon,
right?
Exactly. And they've had it's rare knowledge to be able, like you said, what's his face, who's the only guy in the Seven Kingdoms? Yeah, he's the only guy in the Seven Kingdoms who can rework it. Poor guy.
Mm-hmm. And nobody knows how to make it or to forge a weapon. This guy knows how to reforge it, but not to actually forge a weapon, because there's all kinds of magic and spells, and it has something to do with either dragons or volcano fire being involved. So there's a lot that goes into it, and these are just cool swords that these guys have
at this point. Yeah.
The Night King takes his time getting to Bran. We get a creepy stare off.
Yeah.
Between him and Bran, which again, I thought Bran was gonna mind fuck him or something.
That's what I thought too, man. I was just waiting for
Bran needed to do something.
He's just sitting there waiting.
Yep. And a lot of people are trying to give credit to like, well, Bran, he's looking him up and down, trying to find a weak spot. And he's communicating with Arya through his face. And I'm like, no, he's not. Like, he's just doing nothing because they think Bran's the creepy, weird kid that sits in the corner. So they don't have to give him anything to do. But then bam!
Yep. Bam!
Arya time again. Which this was cool.
Dude, I thought my wife's water was going to break right at that moment because I started hollering and she started hollering and we're both just like, oh my God. I mean, I didn't expect that at all.
It was awesome. She pulls the old, fake out rope-a-dope. She goes high and then goes low. Gets the Night King right where it matters. I 100% thought it was going to be Jon because it has to be Jon because he's Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised and blah, blah, blah. He's the one to bring the end to the long night. And I mean, if you're going to look at it from a prophetic standpoint and going to bring the prophecy back into it, which I don't think the show ever will because they've been trying to distance themselves with any prophecy anyways. Mm-hmm. If you're going to bring it in, then you say, yeah, Jon led the army, so he brought the end to the long night. Like he didn't deal the fatal blow, but he was the one that came up with the plan and brought the army and all that. So that's how you could swing it if you're going to say, see, the prophecy is fulfilled.
Yeah, you can say any number of things to work it to fit that prophecy, but
my wife called it. I put it all on the line before the show. She was like, who do you think is going to kill the Night King? I'm like, it's Jon. It's got to be Jon. It's going to be Jon. She's like, well, I think it's going to be Arya or maybe like Brienne or Jaime. And I'm like, no, it's Jon. Like, there's no other person that can do it other than Jon. And she was like, I think it'll be Arya. And I was like, okay, you're wrong, but whatever. And
she's
good job,
turned
my wife.
And looked at you and just said, ha.
She pretty much. I put my entire A Song of Ice and Fire reputation on it that it would be Jon, and now I'm nothing.
You are nothing, Kalvin. Nothing.
But seriously, for a second, how did Arya get there? Like, I don't care that she got there, and she's a master assassin and a master sneak. I know all of that. That's cool. I need an Ocean's 12 style breakdown of how she actually got from leaving the room to there. Like, not that I don't think she could have done it. I want to fucking see it because it was probably awesome.
It was so awesome. And if it was, I think they showed us that time in the library to show exactly how she is. Yeah,
to remind us that, she's good at this.
Yeah, and I think it would have taken, because I mean, she was gone for like 20 minutes after Melisandre was just like.
I forgot all about her, like that she was even there. And the showrunners, they said that after the episode, they're like, we were hoping that there was enough else going on that you would forget that Arya said not today and left that room. Mm-hmm. And then so you would get that sense of satisfaction from her coming. And I'm just like, well, yeah, but it would have been cool to see her get there too.
It would have been so cool. That would have been a huge payoff, but then that would have gave away the surprise.
Right. That's why I need, like, Ocean's 12, the best part of that movie is, like, they got the Fabergé egg or whatever, and nobody knows how they did it. So at the end of the movie, they explain it and they show every step. Like, can we do that? Can Bran go back in time through the tree and show us how she got there?
Yeah.
Like, give Bran something to do. This is what he can do.
Sweet moves, Ari. He's giving everyone a play-by-play.
Oh, and then she ducks under this way. And then there's another one. Oh, she stabs a White Walker with her dagger.
Dang. Oh, my God.
That'd be kind of cool. Just some final notes. I wish Sansa and Tyrion got to fight a little bit in the crypts. They didn't. Melisandre, she completed her mission. She got to die in peace. Good for her, I guess.
Yeah.
The episode was a bit stretched out. There were parts that could have been trimmed a little bit. The whole opening was a little long. Like, we don't need to stare at everyone just standing there waiting to march into battle. Same with Melisandre's approach. Like, I honestly thought she was going to be like a White Walker out and coming out to like fucking talk to the people and be like, "Hey, are we sure we want to Are we sure we want to fight here?" And then it turned out to be her, and I was like, "Okay, I see what's going on here." And just like even with the Dracarys part, like it was like 30 seconds of blasting him with fire, and then 30 seconds of the fire dying down. Like, it didn't need to be that long for us to get the point.
Yeah, they were really trying to stretch some stuff out just to, I don't know, enunciate the suspense. Mm-hmm. Where you mentioned the Dracarys part, I totally agree with you there. I really liked the drawn out part of that opening scene because it really did
set the scene.
It instilled a sense of dread because I was looking at it too practically. Like, I'm thinking, oh, they got these crazy great commanders. Like, they have so many commanders fighting for their side that are really talented and experienced.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when your enemy can't die.
Exactly.
And doesn't get tired. And
Which,
has way more people.
And I thought it was piss poor planning, but that kind of helped establish the fear, you know?
It didn't bother me in the moment, like, because I was so amped for the battle to start and everything like that. But I think, like, if I go to rewatch it, that part's just going to be like, okay, let's get it. Where's Melisandre? Let's light the Erics. Let's get going. Like, I think it'll be tough on rewatches. But, like you said, in the moment, like, it was really suspenseful and building like, all right, what are we going to do? Who's coming out of the shadows? Like, it did do a good job of that.
It's very, very well done. And I was more so mad about those things because, I mean, I've been watching this show for years. I love these characters. I think they're great. I want to see them succeed, but I don't want it to be, you know, I don't want to see them fail more so for dumbass decisions or like lazy writing. Like, I don't want to see that. That'll make me lose.
There are a lot of
show.
opportunities for that.
Yeah, and they succeeded for the most part, pretty well.
Yeah, and then so we get to put a bad theory to rest. Bran is the Night King. Good job. He's not the Night King. He's not that Night King, at least.
No.
No time travel shenanigans, anything like that. No going back and burn them all. So we got to put all that to bed. Good job, showrunners, on that front.
Thank you.
Bran not warging a dragon is a tough look, though.
Yeah, or
just doing anything of importance.
I have a feeling they're gonna do something crazy with Bran.
Hope so. And yeah, I mean, we covered this plenty already about how they fucked up Bran's power and how nobody who's a show watcher only will ever understand if this is the end of Bran's usefulness, why he was important. And that's bad. Hopefully there's some twist coming where he is useful.
Yeah, that helps correct that a little bit.
Yeah. So what do we think happens next? Arya lives to fight another day, hopefully with her wolf pack down the south. That'll be cool.
I think Arya and the Hound are going to head south, like ahead of the main army. And I think Jon and Daenerys and whatever forces they still have will start to head south after they rebuild. I think the Golden Company is going to show up and capture Sansa. And that's about as far as I think we'll get in this episode.
Okay. Yeah, I said Arya lives to fight another day. I think eventually that comes into play with her wolf pack. She will get to either lead or see it led by Nymeria at the very least.
She got to ride Nymeria into combat. That'd be so
that would be cool.
Dope.
I doubt it'll happen, but it would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
I think the Northerners start to regroup and figure out what's next. They're trying to rebuild Winterfell, maybe the Night's Watch, things like that. That's where their ideas are going to go, is like, okay, how do we get our homes back now? Mm-hmm. How do we protect ourselves if, like, this wasn't the last threat? Like, we need to get the wall back up. We need to do this, that. We need the Night's Watch even more than we needed it before. Like, we don't know what else is out there. I think that's where the Northerners start to go. But then I think we start to get a break between Dany and Jon and the Northerners, because I think she's saying, no, this war's done. Let's go win mine now. And she's insistent on, let's go get them. And yeah, they point that out. The Great War's won. Let's go fight the last war. And they have the hall all cheering for her. But we don't know who's in the hall there. No. Those might be all her men. Like, there might not be any Northerners in there.
I don't know, man, because she lost a devastating amount.
Oh, no, I know she did. But I don't think the Northerners are just going to be ready to, like, jump into a battle with Cersei right now. They're going to be no, these are our homes. Let's rebuild them. And she's going to be like, no, I helped you. Now it's time for you to help me. So I think that's going to start causing this break between them.
It's possible. I don't
on their principles. I know you don't. And we're going to have to agree to disagree.
And that's cool.
Until it plays itself out, because, like, I just have a feeling Cersei is not bad enough to be the final enemy. So there has to be a break between the two of them. They have to go against each other, I think. That's just my thoughts.
So who would be the final enemy?
Each other. The Game of Thrones is the enemy of Dany only cares about this, and she's willing to burn people and do this and that. She's willing to do whatever it takes to get her throne, when really the throne doesn't matter. What matters is that we can come together to fight these existential threats, like the Night King or whatever else is out there. And I think they have a break in philosophy of Dany doesn't really care about life. She cares about the throne. And Jon still cares about what's going on for the living. How do we rebuild our homes? How do we protect ourselves from future threats? The way to do that is not by somebody sitting on a throne. It's by all working together. So I think there's a break philosophically between them, and they turn on each other.
I mean, I think that's extremely logical, reasonable.
And I think the two dragons have to turn on each other at some point as well. Like Rhaegal, there has to be a Rhaegal and Drogon battle at some point.
That'd be so sad. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, but I think it's gonna. I think both the dragons are going to have to die before that. Like, I don't think this world can move forward with dragons
with magic,
because magic maybe a little to an extent, but dragons in particular, because then we just get a repeat of Aegon the Conqueror. Of everybody is loyal to the Targaryens because they have dragons, not because
they're good
rulers. You want to fight, right? You want to fight for them. It's just because they have dragons, and you're mostly doing it out of fear, which is the whole thing behind Aegon the Conqueror. And Aegon the Conqueror turned out to be a pretty good king, but all of the Targaryens after him did not, but people still followed them because they had dragons. So I think if these dragons stay living and Dany stays in control of them, you just start back where you don't break the wheel in any way. Yeah. The wheel has to be broken in that somebody has to change the way things work. And with dragons there, that's not going to happen. So I think the dragons have to turn on each other and kill each other.
That'd be fascinating to see the dilemma for Dany if, she's set out to break the wheel and she'll have to choose between breaking the wheel or her dragons.
Or having her throne.
Yeah.
Because you can't break the wheel if you're just going to be the cog on the wheel that sits on the throne.
True that.
And that's where she may rule over charred bone and ash, because these dragons have a huge battle and burn everything, and Cersei lights everything on fire with wildfire, and there's just a lot of room for Dany to not be the prince who was promised.
Very much so. Especially after this episode, I feel she's even less likely to be that.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the thing with Varys' fear of magic is just never going to come into play.
Apparently not.
Like, they've just given up on that, because with Melisandre back, that was pretty much the last chance for it.
Yeah.
Right? And now she's gone. And so what purpose does Varys serve anymore, other than maybe he knows the tunnels in King's Landing and can help get them into places they wouldn't otherwise get with their now smaller force?
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe that's what he can do.
Maybe. He still needs to die. I just don't know why.
Yeah.
Who would kill him? Except for...
Right, that would have any importance. Yeah. I mean, there's nobody that can kill him at this point that would have any importance on the story. Maybe Tyrion, I guess, because they have a kind of a good relationship, and if Tyrion turns on Varys, I don't know. I don't know how you resolve anything with Varys.
Yeah, that's going to be tough as shit. And that's sad, because he's a really cool character, too.
So the last thing I wanted to bring up is there are new theories emerging that... and this, I kind of I like this better than Bran is the Night King and time traveled back and got stuck, blah, 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 all that bullshit. This is that Jon or Bran or Cersei or Dany, all of these people have been thrown out, basically become the new Night King in some way. And this is how I could see them bringing Bran's power back to show how forceful he is. He didn't want to fight the army of the dead because they needed to be stopped. He wanted to fight the army of the dead so he could become basically the new Night King. Like, he wanted to take over that role. He's playing this other game in his mind the whole time that he's not letting other people in. That's how you can bring Bran in and make him actually important. I don't know other ways to make him important now. Other than, like, he wasn't actually fighting for the living. He was fighting for the dead the whole time. He just wanted to lead the dead, so he had to get rid of this other guy first.
That's a trippy theory. I don't see his reasoning for wanting to lead the dead.
It's the path of the three hour. There's passages in the books of Melisandre seeing flashes of like a face and a wooden face and a boy with a wolf's head, which is the wooden face is Bloodraven in the tree in the Lands of Always Winter, and the boy with the wolf's head is Bran, obviously. And she keeps thinking to herself that maybe this is the Lord of Darkness's warrior, basically. But also, Melisandre is usually wrong about what she's looking at in the flames.
She's been wrong a lot.
Yeah. Especially in the books. She's very wrong a lot of times. Like, my best thing from Melisandre in the books is when she asks the flames to show her the prince who was promised or whatever, and the flames are just showing her snow everywhere. Like, just blankets and blankets of snow. And I'm like, really? You just met a dude named Jon Snow. Maybe go talk to him.
No, it can't be that
can't
guy.
be it. That can't be it. No. That doesn't seem right. Why isn't it showing me Stannis anymore? And so my whole thing with Melisandre is the Lord of Light showed her Stannis because Stannis was her path to get to Jon. And
That's
Jon was always the one she was looking for. So now that she's close to Jon, the Lord of Light is showing her what she needs. She just doesn't fucking get it because she's not very smart.
Apparently not.
So yeah, there's these theories that, Jon could forsake the realm of humans just because he's sick of them and go be the Night King. Cersei could do it because Cersei's fucking sadistic. Dany could do it. Dany, I would see the least bit doing it. Yeah, but Jon, Bran, and Cersei, I think all have good arguments for it. But Cersei's still a little far-fetched.
I could honestly see Cersei more than Jon or Bran. Just to be queen of
the
the
only
dead.
reason I could see Bran is because his powers have to mean something. Yeah. And they haven't yet. So I don't know what else his powers could mean if not they're setting up this twist for him to turn on the realms of men.
Yeah, I'm eager to see where it'll go. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, that's it. There's a lot of interest. A lot of people are upset that, the big bad was defeated in episode 3. What the hell are they going to do for the next 3 episodes? Like, there's a ton of things that can still happen. There's so much intrigue going on between Jon and Dany and Cersei, and like you're just not looking at it. Like you wanted a big boss battle at the end, but like this isn't Thanos. That's not the point. The point of this show is how people interact with each other. It's more important that they can come together and defeat things like this and then stay together. But that's not. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to break. They fought the Great War, and now can they stay together or are they going to break? That's what's important.
I totally agree with you. And
if you just end with the Night King being defeated, you don't get to explore any of that.
And that would have been so dumb. Like, that would have just been super stupid. And I never, like we said before, we didn't think the Night King was the true baddie. Like, it's
each other.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm still sticking to that. And I could see using that as a framework where you would want to say, they're going to break up at some point, or, there's going to be a falling out between them, which it's in time. I'm not saying there won't be. I'm not saying there will be. I don't know at this point. And I don't really have any damning evidence to point either direction.
There's a lot of interesting things that can happen. They could break, they could stay together, and either way it would be interesting to see. And at this point, neither way is wrong yet. It's Schrodinger's relationship at this point. As long as we don't open the box, we don't know if it's dead or alive.
Very nice. Very nice.
But that's all we've got for this episode. We'll be back next week with episode 4 and to see what's going on with the Golden Company, hopefully.
I'd like to find out. I want to see Blackfire come into play.
Hopefully they're more important than, here's an army.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's just that, I'm like, yeah, okay. Lame.
Yeah. And now our watch
is ended.
The Bible says man without vision shall surely